Hello, my name's Andrew Wilson. I'm the mechanical service instructor here at the Mechanical Trades Institute Joint Apprenticeship Training Trust at 5675 Tulane Drive off of Fulton Industrial. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about Oxy-Fuel Welding. And if you watched my previous video on brazing, we went over doing your safety steps before you perform the brazing operations, and we're going to touch base on that once again because you can't ever do enough about safety when performing these type operations. Before we get started, there's a couple of checks that you want to do before you get into doing your Oxy-Fuel welding. You want to check around your work environment and your work area and make sure that there's no fire hazards or anything that can be caught on fire, anything that is extremely flammable or combustible, and rid your work area of those materials. Second off, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate fire extinguisher just in case something does occur, which we have 3 of them, one here, one over on that wall, and one on the back wall. Second off, you want to make sure that your acetylene and oxygen tanks are far enough away from the work where none of the fire can go towards the tanks, and you also want to make sure that there's no electrical hazards. Obviously, a direct short can puncture a hole in the tank and cause a spark that can cause a fire as well. What we're going to be doing here, we're utilizing oxygen and acetylene. Acetylene is a very volatile gas. It is filled with acetone, and the acetylene itself is absorbed in the acetone, which helps stabilize that gas and not make it so volatile. You never want to utilize this gas in leaving pressures above 15 psig because of the combustible hazards that are associated with it. Before you use any of this stuff, we're going to talk about transporting your cylinders, because most of the time you guys are going to be on a job working for one of our contractors, and you're going to have to pick up your equipment and bring it to the job site. When you're transporting any compressed gases such as these, you've always got to be sure that you transport them in your automobile upright and totally secured with the caps installed and secured. You don't want any banging of the cylinders, any rolling around, and you definitely don't want to lay them down in a horizontal position. If they are laid down in a horizontal position, the old rule of thumb is however long they lay down, you need to stand them up for that period of time before use. What happens is the acetone that is dissolved in this tank starts coming out of the hoses, and you don't want the acetone coming out, you want the acetylene vapors coming out. And if the acetone starts coming out, it dilutes your fuel gas mixture and will cause your flame not to be nowhere high enough, and also give you a foul odor, and some other unwanted things can occur. Now, there's several other things that you need to know about acetylene. You never want to utilize a tip, which is on our torches here. I'm utilizing a small tip today, a number 2 tip, but you never want to utilize a tip that uses more than 1/7 of the volume of a tank per hour. So in other words, if this tip used 22 cubic foot an hour when it's fully loaded, then the tank needs to be 7 times that in volume. Also, what will happen is the acetone will come out and dilute the flame if you exceed that. If you do use a tip or several tips or several torches that are operating off of a single header, then you can combine the 2 tanks in one header and have enough volume where the acetone will not dilute the flame.